I thrive on very tough intellectual and creative challenges. You know, it was a lot of good money. It was good money, but didn't feel successful at all because I felt like I was pretending the whole time. When people don't have a space to connect, they become lonely, and that's our generation. Happiness or success comes from being able to just find yourself and be yourself. Generally, when you have a bunch of smart people or creative people inside one space, a lot of magic can happen.
You are trying to save the world, Luca.
Someone has to do it. That's the way I see it. It's like,
Hey, I am Alina Reddy and welcome to Foreign Influence.
It was a wild experience.
Something clicked in me and I didn't want to be average anymore.
What I love about the Dragon is
How did that come about?
Well, educated.
So he survived for about an hour?
Best young emerging actor.
Oh, wow.
It has to be on point.
Yeah, yes. A particular sketch with Rebel Wills.
Never stop learning.
I decided to run away.
here I am, continuing my tennis journey here.
Thought, that's it?
A few opinions about what
Passages.
That made your journey harder? Hey, this is Alina Reddy and welcome to Foreign Influence. We're in South Bank in O3 Space Cafe and we're going to chat to Luca Yang, who was born in New Zealand, Harvard graduate, successful entrepreneur who created this amazing space. Luca, thank you so much for having us in your beautiful space.
I'm glad you're here.
What inspired you to become an entrepreneur?
I didn't actually want to become an entrepreneur. It was more like it just happened this way. So, you know, I had a background in finance and investment banking, which is pretty stupid and boring if you ask me. But couldn't take a single day extra in that, so I quit. I wanted to travel and I had no money to travel, so I had to do something to earn some pocket money. Back then I was in the UK studying, so I started teaching English out of all things just to feed myself, and I bought these really cheap tickets to Europe, stepped inside cars, went into gyms and showered at gyms, all that kind of stuff, and I was teaching English this whole time, and it was mainly a survival project, right? So every single lesson funded my next meal. And eventually people really liked my teaching. So one student became 10, 10 became 30, 30 became 300 eventually, and then a company was born. And I really didn't want to create a company back then. It was more just like I wanted to feed myself. So that's how my first company started. Then obviously a whole lot happened in between that and now, which is, '03 and everything. So yeah, lots happened.
Yes, it sounds like a lot happened. But what was the biggest challenge that you faced and how did you overcome it?
I think '03 as a company is really tough because one, it's a new category. So when you don't have a market, there was no market, right? When Deloitte, I think, did a whole market analysis of our first store in New Zealand, they were just like, the probability of success for you guys rounded to the nearest whole number is 0.
Wow.
So it was like
great
Deloitte,
odds.
and these guys are, they're Deloitte, and they're supposed to be smart, but I guess they're kind of dumb. But anyway, so they said it was 0. We were just like, damn, I guess we have no chance of survival. But then after a few months of operating, it turned out that it was 0 because there was no market, right? But we created the market. We created this whole co-working market for students, essentially. That's what it is. It's like blending a cafe and a co-working space. What they thought was we had this traditional market of, let's say, like, $200 per week. Right, that's a traditional co-working space like WeWork and stuff like that. And those are all going down in New Zealand at this time. So everything was going down, 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 everything was red. But they didn't know that we actually invented a market for students. We only charge like $10, $15 a week. And it's almost like a gym. Not every single person came every single day, but it was like a gym. So we can have like, let's say,
membership.
exactly, like 100 seats for 1,000 members or so. And that didn't exist. It's not just in New Zealand, it didn't exist anywhere in the world. So they didn't even see it coming. The tough part of that was convincing people that we were there to create something new. We weren't there to be scary or try to scam them. When we first started, some people actually accused us on Google reviews for money laundering. My team and I try to create good product that we would use ourselves and our friends and family would use. And that's all we really care about.
Your educational journey is impeccable. How important was the role of your education that it played in your entrepreneurship journey?
Not much at all, if I have to say.
Well, tell us about your education first.
Well, I went to university in the UK. So I went to LSE, London School of Economics, and I did economics. And then I did my master's at Harvard.
Incredible.
Both pretty amazing schools. And, my parents had to, before like any of your viewers think like, oh, this is a rich family boy. No. My parents actually had to take on a lot of debt, send me to those places.
So there has been a lot of sacrifice.
Oh yeah, blood, sweat and tears. It wasn't very easy for them to see me not go down the traditional career path. It's like we sent our kid to Harvard and now he's saying screw you to all the advantages he gets and he's starting from zero because there's no innate advantage with entrepreneurship, right? So it doesn't matter if you went to Harvard or MIT or Stanford, entrepreneurship is entrepreneurship. You can be a broke person, it's the same thing. So they felt like I was throwing away my entire advantage there. The education at Harvard wasn't that useful. I think what they are is they basically get a bunch of smart people and put them into a space. In a similar way, we get a bunch of smart people and we put them into a space as well. Generally, when you have a bunch of smart people or creative people inside one space, a lot of magic can happen. Yeah. So a lot of natural things happen. So it's not really about what they teach you. I didn't learn a single thing about the world because someone taught me. It's because I was in the right environment with the right people who are also very ambitious.
You were born in New Zealand?
I was. Yeah. Parents are Chinese. They've been New Zealand citizens for the last 30 years or so.
What were the circumstances that they left their home country to come to New Zealand?
My mom was supposed to come here for whatever reason. I can't remember what the reason was, but she came here. And she was supposed to go back because my dad had a pretty good life in China. Well, grew up very, very low class, factory worker, went to university, started working for a foreign business in China and, like good incline up on the trajectory. And then my mom one day decided like, hey, I kind of like this place, New Zealand. I think I'm not going to go back. And, my dad didn't have much leverage back then. He was the one chasing my mom. And he said, okay, I'm just going to give everything up. And I guess I have to come here to New Zealand and start over again. So when they came here, they had like $2,000 in their pocket or something, like very, very little money. That's how it all came together. A love story, if you will.
Luca, how did you come up with the concept for this cafe?
We sat down one evening and we finished the design from start to finish in one sitting.
Oh, wow.
And most of the time we actually spent arguing about what constitutes great design, like through history. Like what lasts throughout history, what is great for human nature. We didn't really spend that much time actually designing. So we kept bickering over like, okay, how do you create a space where people would want to come back to every single day and spend like 5 or 6 hours here? Because if you look at a lot of the minimalist cafes around the world, they look great, but they're very gimmicky because you wouldn't actually want to go back. You'll go there once and you'll never come back again, right? So we wanted to create a space that was cozy enough for people to come back. So we thought, okay, human nature, right? Why don't we just combine humans and nature, humanity and nature? So kind of like a lot of books, a lot of art, a lot of history with a lot of trees, a lot of park-like vibes, that kind of stuff. So
and I love the soft light.
Yeah, it's very ambient.
Yeah.
We came up with the concept Hogwarts inside a park, basically. We're just like, okay, that's the magical part. Hogwarts is like the most wildest human fantasy imagination, and the park is like the most natural, the most, like something that all humans love, the green that all humans love. So the bringing these two things together, that was the concept here. And we literally sat down, we opened Blender, the 3D modeling software, and literally finished it in like 10 hours. So we finished everything and we're just like, that's it, we're gonna do this exactly. Yeah, all in 10 hours.
Wow, that's amazing. And how did you get financial backing to make your project happen, come to life?
The short answer is we really didn't have that much backing. What we did was we hustled. We hustled very hard. You know, a lot of the things you see here is actually just DIY. We try to DIY everything because we design everything on 3D software like Blender. And we understand every single ounce of the engineering, like how things are built. For example, we thought about when we designed a car inside the space, like this car you see right there, we already were thinking,
love this car.
Yeah, we already thought about where we'd get it. Facebook Marketplace, how much is it? Okay, $2,000. Like we actually knew exactly how much it would cost where we would get it. A lot of these benches and stuff, they're all shipped in from China, in bulk, again, below market price. And we actually sent our team over to China to handpick the furniture because paying someone to do it for you is actually extra money. Every single furniture here, every single chair, every single table, we assembled ourselves. So everything was just our team and a bunch of volunteers helping us out. What else is there? Yeah, paintings. Yeah, the books. So we actually acquired a secondhand bookstore for that. So that's how we did it. So books are way too expensive. They're like $10 per book. We couldn't afford. So what we did was there was a secondhand bookstore that was dying. They were very, very keen to liquidate. We design everything. At O3, design and engineering is like one team. So everyone knows everything. Even those ladders there, you can see how it fits perfectly in the bookshelves. And by the way, the bookshelves are from IKEA. So every single bookshelf from IKEA, we buy them, we assemble them, maybe over 100 of them, we assemble them ourselves. We measure exactly the distance, how they would stack.
Wow.
We understand the physics, and then we customize.
Precision.
Yeah, exactly. So we customize the ladder so it would fit perfectly within. So we had zero professional advice on the design or the engineering.
Wow. Very strategic and pragmatic.
A lot of blood, sweat, and tears obviously invested into making it happen. But big projects like this, you tend to have millions of dollars in budget usually. And we got quoted that, by the way. We got quoted $1 million, I think $2 million for the project. We ended up doing it for like a couple hundred K. Well, less than 200K, like 100 and something K. Yeah.
And when you say we, so it's yourself and who is?
My team, an amazing team. And we have a great team here. I'm not gonna call out all their names because there's too many of them, but yeah, so it's not just me. I'm just a symbol. I get all the credit, but really I have a great team behind me and they do a lot of work.
Fantastic. How do you define success?
I have a weird definition. It's more about being able to be yourself. I feel like a lot of people aren't able to be themselves, especially in corporate. So when you're working in corporate, you have to put on a face. I'm gonna ping you, or I'm gonna loop you in. There's just a lot of like lingo everyone uses, the same suit, same tie, everyone is kind of standardized. Everyone is creative and smart until school teaches you how to not be creative and smart. And you kind of unlearn all of that. Happiness or success comes from being able to just find yourself and be yourself versus being the societal average that education or work forces you to be. For me, that means getting to say what I want, talk to who I want to talk to, build what I want to build versus what other people want me to build.
You place a lot of value on individuality.
I had my first business in education, and it was a lot of good money. It was good money, but didn't feel successful at all because I felt like I was pretending the whole time. And now, full disclosure, I don't make a cent off O3, by the way. I'm the only person in the entire company who doesn't make an income. And I feel vastly successful right now because I get to express myself through my art. I would get to work with people who accept me for who I am, and they work very well with me. Some very smart and creative people. I get to wake up doing what I want to do and being who I want to be every single day. I think that's some element of success.
And you created a lot of employment opportunities for so many people.
Oh yeah. I think one of the cool ones is definitely the fact that our members constantly tell us that they meet people they otherwise would never meet anywhere else on this planet inside one of our spaces. And what that does is they have new business opportunities together. A lot of humans are very intelligent. I'm very optimistic about human connection. And when you put a bunch of people in a room, oftentimes they get the courage and motivation from each other to start something new, maybe talk about something, cross-fertilize ideas. And when you let that happen freely and not under the surveillance system of a school or whatever, they tend to really bond. And so a lot of our members have created businesses together. They've created design collaborations together. They've done all sorts of amazing, amazing things. They form clubs, run clubs, founders clubs. They've helped each other raise funds from different investment firms, and so much smartness going around,
And you create those communities.
Well, I don't actually create the communities.
But you provide that platform.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's one thing. Look, I think I create spaces. That's all I do. That's all I know how to do. I think a third space is one of those places that can really host communities naturally, and a lot of communities can come together like interdimensionally almost. There was one place in Europe, I'm not sure if you've been to, one of my 55 countries I've traveled to.
55.
Yeah. So in 1 year in a car, I slept in the car the whole time. It's like, here and oily and stuff. But Vienna, I don't know if you've been to Vienna.
Not yet.
So Vienna has this cafe called Cafe Central. And Prague and all these places have similar kinds of cafes. And the idea with these cafes is that it's a place where a lot of different types of people back in the day, musicians, artists, intellectuals, philosophers, they would come together and they would, again, cross-fertilize ideas and talk to one another. And I thought that was beautiful. The Cafe Central is one of those places I went to, and I was just awestruck because it was so grand. And I think the real third space is not about one single community. It's actually the crossing over of different kinds of people. It's not hard to get a bunch of very similar people and make them talk about similar-minded things. It's very hard to actually get two different groups of people, for example, software engineers, and then artists, and then make them connect over time. And
left brains and right brains.
exactly. And I think that's what the world really needs. It's a need to celebrate difference versus more and more similarity. We are very siloed.
What motivates you?
Well, what motivated me back in the day was simply just doing stuff that I think was cool, like creating stuff that I could be proud of and selling that and seeing the results of that. It was a very ground up motivation. You raise a kid and you're very proud of the kid, obviously, and you want to show him or her off to the world. And you feel very teary when you send him off to school and that kind of stuff. It's the same thing for me. But now I think the motivation has changed a little bit after realizing that the kid actually stands for a lot more than I do. The kid is actually going to be a lot smarter and a lot better than the parent. This kid has this ability to bring people together in a world that is pretty sad and disconnected. We're in the loneliest generation in human history. We are the loneliest generation in human history.
Tell me, why do you think that?
Well, we are. I think it's not rocket science to realize that. You can think about it in terms of statistics. So there's all the relevant statistics online. And it's also the fact that if you look around, everyone's on their phones.
Yeah.
They're scrolling. I did a pitch the other day at StartMate. What I opened up with was Zuck fried our brains. And this is not just online. So online, we started like scrolling and everything is single player now. It's not about connecting with friends anymore. It's just like consuming crap on the internet. And then offline, you have similar things. It's not just an online world. So offline, what you have is places like Starbucks, former third spaces, what Howard Schultz called the third space. Everyone's facing one direction, instant coffee shop, right? You get your coffee and you get out. There is actually no space to connect, online or offline. And I realized something, like why O3 blew up at its very soul, at its very core, it's because it provides people a much needed space to connect. That's pretty much it. It's not that complicated if you think about it. Maybe it's just me. I don't like to overcomplicate things, but when people don't have a space to connect, they become lonely, and that's our generation. It's a generational loneliness, and it's a very quiet generational loneliness. What we're doing is to simply give people a space to talk, to connect, to slow down again. And I think that's had a profound impact on a lot of people, on thousands of people. What I hope is that it can have a profound impact on our entire generation as well. Yeah.
Wow, you're also a philosopher.
Well, I just think more spaces will be good for the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah, more space. We're becoming more and more populous as a civilization, but the amount of space is becoming more and more scarce. And it seems that the more populous and dense we are, the more easy we are to feel alone, which is really interesting. Wonder why? Because there's no space to really connect with people in very dense places. No space to breathe, no space to belong, no space to connect. Yeah.
You're trying to save the world, Luca.
Someone has to do it. That's the way I see it. Someone does have to do it. And I just happen to be lucky enough to have a platform and a brand that resonates with a lot of young people. We're also lucky enough to have, good support from good investors, and we have great staff, and we have a great physical space.
Luca, this is the physical space, but I also know you have an app online. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I think, again, the problem we're trying to tackle is loneliness. Loneliness is a two-sided problem. It comes from not having a space to connect, both online and offline. 21st century, most of our interactions are online, unfortunately. That's the cultural trend, even though we are physical beings. So a two-sided problem requires a two-sided solution. So we built the physical space to address one side of the problem, but it's only one side of the problem. There's also, this other side, which is, digitally, we are digital nomads. Everyone's on TikTok, everyone's on Instagram. How do we address that? Well, the answer is the same thing. We just need to build a better online space as well. And that's what we're working on right now. Have you played Club Penguin at all or anything like that?
No,
maybe some
sorry. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like a digital space where you and your friends can hang out. And we're building that as well in the same design philosophy as a physical O3 space. And we think that people will love it. So,
yeah, it sounds like it will be so useful and so popular.
Well, it's going to be something that hopefully doesn't fry our brains like normal social media. And it's not realistic to think that people could just turn back time and go back to the days without social media, without our phones and stuff. It's not possible. You can't take away people's phones and just be like, oh, that's better, right? Even though it was. What you have to do is to somehow take the crappy digital stuff like social media and replace it with less crappy digital stuff, like our app.
So you want to evolve.
Yeah, we want to evolve, and we want to somehow bring digital and physical together under one network, like I said before. So that's one of the most exciting parts about this, because we're not just building spaces, we're actually building a network of spaces, both online and offline. And hopefully we can create a product that's both physical and digital, which has really never been done before. And I think we're getting close. So.
What will it be called?
O3.
O3.
Yeah, just O3. Yeah.
And what does O3 stand for?
The third space. So we thought of it as the third space. My first company was called Oyster, and the O kind of retained, and then 3, it's just like space, O3. One day I don't want people to talk about let's go to a coffee shop or let's go to a third space. I want them to say let's go to an O3, because O3 we're just the giant space where you can connect with people. So yeah.
How would you describe yourself as a person? Well, you said you're not an extrovert, but mind you, you have so many people around you.
Yeah, that's the thing. I do get drained by people around me. That's the thing. We designed an app where you can, scan in and see who else is scanned in with you in order to have an icebreaker and talk to them, and you can see what they do for a living. That was built because I was that kind of person. I would never approach anyone in a million years. It would literally kill me. So I'm not an extrovert, probably an ambivert. I can talk a lot, but it drains me simultaneously. I'm a person who really can't sit still when it comes to my life. I really want to do things. I love challenges. I thrive on very tough intellectual and creative challenges. I love this kind of intersectionality between the creative and the intellectual, the science. And I like to bring both, very smart people and bring very creative people together and get them to, again, talk to one another, because I think the results are phenomenal. The results are profound.
Being here and watching all these people, it's amazing. And these are the results that we can see right now.
Well, early results. I wouldn't say they're results. I think they're early signs. They're early signs that we're doing.
It's a start, and it's a really big start.
We've been alive for 1 year. So we've opened for 1 year. The Auckland store has just turned 1 recently.
Wow. Happy
so I
birthday.
think, thanks. Yeah. We haven't achieved anything, but I think we're building in the right direction. We're building for good. We're building for humanity. We're building for humanity's emotional survival to some extent.
Congratulations on what you have achieved so far, and I cannot wait how much further it will take you. And thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much.